Okay, sit rep. So a lot of you guys left me comments saying to like chill out for a second, try to figure out what's going on with the car, do a little bit more investigating at the very least before you try to ship it off. So I'm going to heed and I'm going to listen. So we've got a couple of things on the docket today. This might be like my first ever vlog style video. I need to head to the store right now and pick up I'm going to try some 5W weight 40 oil. And I'm going to, I have a borescope on order. If you don't know what a borescope is, it's a little camera with the light on the end of it. So we can try to maybe pull one of the spark plugs or go up through the drain plug hole before I fill it with oil, and we can kind of see what's going on in there. And hopefully what we don't find is a ton of metal shavings. And as a little bit of an experiment last night, I pulled the drain plug again and more oil continued to drain out. So first thing that we're gonna do is take a look at that oil and see how it looks. So this is the last oil sample that I have that I'm going to take. And aside from it having like a layer of dust on the top of it from being unprotected all night, this is looking pretty clean. I'm trying to get in there as close as possible. Other than being like dirty used oil, this isn't looking terrible. And if I get some, let's see if I can get like a film going on the edge so that we can take a look at this. Like, I don't see any metal shavings in this at all. In fact, if we come down here, that's just a drain plug in there. I decided I didn't care and I just let it fall in. So that's what that big chunk of metal is. But everything else in here looks relatively clean. Another test that we can do here is check the bottom of the cup, because a lot of the metal shaving fragments will sink there. And again, so there's the drain plug, and I don't see a ton of metal shavings. So I don't know what that means, because I don't know how you could have oil with metal shavings in it, and then oil with less metal shavings, and then even more oil with no metal shavings. So something weird is going on here, and I think you guys are right, and it warrants further investigation. So let's go ahead, pop up to the store, and let's go pick up some oil. So while I'm on my way, I figured this would be a good time to talk about the driving characteristics between the Boxster and the 944, and overall which platform I prefer. I actually was, I took the Boxster out last weekend maybe, and I filmed a 4-minute piece talking about what the character of that car really is and what it's meant for versus how this feels. And it's really interesting because as different as they are, you definitely do notice the same DNA in the driving experience, and specifically in the way that the cars instill confidence. And while the Boxster has 100 more horsepower than this, I do genuinely prefer the way that this car drives and handles. And when I'm in this car going back and forth between the two, I don't necessarily miss the speed that the Boxster holds in this. Like, it's just, this car is so engaging and so much fun to drive that how fast you're going doesn't really take away from anything. In fact, I'd argue that this is better because you can really brag on this and not be worried about going to jail. At least not for a while. So the Boxster to me has always struck me as more of the late night kind of therapy drive car, and this is like the Canyon Crusher, the Grocery Getter, the GT road trip car. This kind of fits all those boxes. And quite honestly, if you do want the speed, go get a 944 S2, a 16 valve car. What is that, like 200 and it's over 220 horsepower. It's around 220. So 30 horsepower less than a Boxster and slightly lighter. I mean, that car's gonna move. So if you want something with speed that is easy to work on and is gonna have better handling characteristics and instill more confidence, personally, if you're in the market for a Porsche, that's what I would go for. Now, as far as like first Porsches go, 944. I don't think you should get a Boxster as your first Porsche. They're harder to work on. Okay, back home now. I need to go get cleaned up, and then I need to hop on and knock out some school stuff. But before I go, the one last thing I wanted to mention was none of this oil smells like fuel. So get out your smell-o-vision. You can smell that. Smell that. It doesn't smell like fuel. So that's what leads me to think that this potentially isn't IMS related. Because I feel like if the IMS had gone, or if fuel had started to get in there and degrade the oil, then the oil would smell like gas, wouldn't it? And if the car was over fueling, like running rich and washing down the cylinder walls, well then the oil would smell like gas. The oil would smell like something. It doesn't even smell burnt. It just smells like oil. Yeah. So I don't know, something weird is going on with this car, man. Lifters can't shred material like that. Like, the only time I have ever seen, even though I've never ripped apart an engine, only time I've ever seen material like that is bearing material. So anyways, I guess we'll find out. That didn't sound good. Got the drive belt off. Let's see what happens. Car's still up to temp. Let's cool down a little bit. Okay, so after a bit of a grueling weekend, let's recap everything that we did to really put this thing to bed. So first off, I want to shout out the 944 online Discord group. Stitch, the guy that runs the thing, is a good dude. He was on the phone with me for about an hour last night, just walking me through some things, giving me some tips. Things that I probably should have already known and did know and would suggest to anybody else, but just in the heat of the moment, all of the emotions and the anxiety kind of get to you, and you just kind of, I was definitely rushing. So thank you to him. If you have a 944, go check out the server. It's awesome. Bunch of people doing a lot of cool stuff in there. And if you have questions, everyone is more than willing to help. So go check that out. And yeah, so let's break it down. So there's 3 things that we did to basically confirm the suspicions. We were hoping to debunk that it was potentially rod bearing failure, and everything kind of checks out as rod bearing failure. So first thing is, I took a magnet to some of the metal shavings that I have in some of the oil. Metal shavings are attracted to the magnet. That's not good, because if it's forest material, that means it's magnetic. That's typically the metals that are used in the bearings are magnetic. That's one way that you can tell. So if you hold a magnet to it and you start seeing it pull all the tiny little fragments towards the magnet, that's kind of strike one. Strike two was after filling the engine with fresh oil, the noise was still there. And I was a little bit hopeful, because as you guys saw in those clips, when the car is at idle, there's no knock, there's no piston slap. I don't know what that noise is 100% yet, but there's no issue. It's not until you rev the engine to right around 2,700 RPM that knocking becomes real apparent real quick. And lastly, to kind of confirm that it's an engine noise and it isn't some sort of other variable, such as a water pump pulley, air conditioning compressor, etc., any of the other pulleys in the engine, I removed the drive belts. And when you do that, you're isolating the engine as the thing that's making the noise. So took the drive belts off in that last clip, and you heard 2,700 RPM. There's the knocking noise. So to me, that's kind of like the smoking gun, nail in the coffin. I think what has happened here is that one rod bearing has just let go. I couldn't tell you why. I'm sure I could scope the cylinders and find out, but at this point, I'm not keeping the car, and it's not worth my time to do that. So, yeah, I'm sure whoever ends up owning this car will split the case, and they'll find out. One thing that Stitch was saying could potentially have happened is one cylinder could have scored, and as a result of a hot spot, damaged the cylinder skirt, or the piston skirt. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense as to why one would have failed versus all of them. But in buying the car, I tried to do all my homework as best I could. I have a stack of maintenance paperwork. I have evidence of the car being scoped before and verified that everything was healthy. The mileage on the car seemed to suggest that the IMS wasn't going to be a factor. So everything to me checked out when I bought the car. And it just seems to be one of those things where owning a Boxster wasn't in the cards for me. So that being said, the car is still for sale. I'm asking $3,500 for it as is. It will start, it'll run, it'll drive, but that engine is knocking and is going to need to be addressed. I'm open to offers. I will keep the car probably for about a week before I decide to just, I don't know, cash for clunkers or something, because I can't hold on to it very long. I don't want it sitting in front of the house for months on end, and I'll show you why I can't really keep it. So this is the result of my pristine 944 having to sit outside for 5 days. And it's normal for cars to get rained on and whatever else, but I really don't, and I've done my best to protect this car, but I really don't want it exposed to the elements more than it needs to be, especially with it being daily driven. So I really don't want to have to stick this car outside for like 6 months while I try to find buyers for headlights and door cards and doors and mirrors and all that other kind of stuff. So while the car is complete, while the Boxster is complete, I would rather just get rid of it as a whole package. The other thing is a lot of you were suggesting to just, well, pull the motor out and rebuild it, etc. And I just don't have the money to do it. And on top of that, I don't have the resources here. For starters, I'm not sure what the height is on this garage. I can't remember if it's like 8 or 9 feet. I think it's 9-foot ceilings here. But regardless, it's not enough to get the car up high enough drop the engine out. I don't have the room to keep the 944 in here, park the Boxster in here, pull the motor, rebuild it, and throw it back in and hope for the best. I also don't have like some of the precision tools that are needed to check to make sure that the block itself is okay. So it really probably should be left up to someone with actual experience tearing down an engine, and who can really diagnose and properly assess the situation that's going on with that car. With 944s, it's a little bit different because I can just pop the hood and everything is there. So like if I need to do a head gasket on this, I can do all of that work with the engine still in the car. I don't really need to drop it. And God forbid if I have like a rod bearing failure in this, if number 2 lets go, I can still drop the oil pan and get to those bearings without having to pull the engine. And it would be a pain in the butt job, but like it's doable. The car wouldn't have to go. That I just literally don't have the resources to take care of. I don't have a stand here. I don't have a hoist, all that other kind of stuff. So it's just in my best interest personally that the car goes away. But like I said, I don't really have the heart to part it out either way. I would really prefer it to go to a home. I'm sure somebody out there is looking for like either a track car or something that they can get into and swap an engine into and have an overall decent car. So that's going to go ahead and do it for the Boxster series. Kind of a bum out, but now we've got a couple things to look forward to. I don't really want to end this whole video on such a sour note, so we'll try to talk about some cool things. First thing is now I get to do a detailing video on the 944. Silver lining, right? Car's never been this dirty. Let's hope it's not water spotted to hell. Second thing is I did get a slight update on the Saratoga tops. So don't worry, we'll be talking about those soon. I'm hopefully we'll be able to get 5 to 10 people on board for a group buy, and then we can have some pretty significant discounts. That's what I'm rooting for. So as soon as I have more information on that, then I'll be sure to post you guys. But for now, they're asking that we just kind of hang on and wait until the actual production batch is ready to go. Right now, they're still in the final stages of test fitting the Saratoga tops. Another project that I was kind of working on behind the scenes was potentially developing some connectors so that you could plug in aftermarket gauges into the factory plugs. So, because I would definitely love to do a speed hut setup in here. So that's kind of in the works. I need to still do a review video for the head unit that I chose. It's going to be a little bit tricky because sometimes with CarPlay, it messes with the audio. So I just need to like actually plan that video out and go through the motions and do a voiceover. So that'll be coming soon. Later in the year, this is going to be due for a timing belt, and I'm definitely going to be the one doing it. It's looking like, just because it's going to be too expensive to pay anybody else to do it. So we'll be knocking that out, and we'll see what happens with this for the rest of the year. There are still things that I wanted to do to this, and we've kind of gone back and forth, but hopefully we can maybe move forward with this. And at this point, I just kind of want to put the Boxster, just close that chapter. So that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. I really appreciate all of you for just the kind words and the suggestions and just telling me to relax for a little bit and be more objective. That really helped out, and I think it was necessary for me to go through and show all of you guys, like, okay, this is really how you should treat a scenario like this. Is if you suspect some like major engine damage or whatever, this is kind of what you can look for. So hopefully everyone can learn from it. I thought I did my homework the right way. I thought I was going to be safe with the car, but I think mid-engine Porsches, at least for now, just aren't in the cards for me until I have a bigger workspace and more mechanical knowledge and I'm more comfortable. But that's okay, because the 944 is a better car.